Hey everybody, my name is Kieran Hunter, which is also the name of the channel, which is a huge coincidence, of course. Don't know where that came from. I'm opening up this channel to basically be a guide to help people through their spiritual awakening, but also just to keep things a little bit light, to talk about spirituality in general, to help people that are struggling with specific problems or instances. I don't want to ever go too deep into one spiritual topic. I'd like to help a wider range of people. Not, so I might not do entire videos on concepts like star seeds, twin flames, etc. But rather open it up to things, like what it's like to be depressed, how to get over it, tips, to handle dark nights of the soul, things that could maybe speak to a larger audience of people, rather than just the specific few who are already long have gone through this spiritual awakening. But so I apologize for the quality of the video, both probably in the way that I'm going to sound and also in the picture. It's taken on my phone. It's my first video ever, but it's still better than the quality at CW, so it shouldn't be too bad, I suppose. But I'll just start talking a little bit about myself. I'm wearing a bandana because for some reason I think it's cool. Basically 25, couple years ago, almost two, I had a terrible relationship with a narcissist, or karmic partner, if you will. And after that ended and I was discarded, that basically started a process of spiritual awakening within me, something a little bit deeper than what I knew to exist in the world beforehand. I was actually an atheist. Then, last year in the springtime, I met my twin flame, which, take that as you will, but it was a trying period. It still is, but it's gotten better. But that really served as a catalyst for my further expansion of consciousness, and really sort of actually truly began the process of spiritual awakening, which is essentially a breakdown. Yeah, and that's almost the best way of really putting it. Is a lot of people ask, what is spiritual awakening? And think that it's a sort of enlightenment, or think that it makes people better, a very hippie sort of esque thing. People in Northern California just smoking weed all day. And that's not really what it is being spiritually awakened. There's one thing being spiritual, or believing in something that's of a higher degree. People do that all the time. Religions exist, people believe in them. It's not that crazy of an idea. We've been believing it since, people praised the sun and believed that there was a sun god. So that idea itself has always been around, but doesn't necessarily have any connotation with what it means to undergo a spiritual awakening. And there's different kinds. I'll probably make a video in the future of what they are and the exact stages of each one. But just to keep the first video light in general, pretty short, a spiritual awakening is basically when you come to a realization that there's something more than basically the body, the everything that you see with just your eyes and your five senses. And it can be a hard sort of thing to navigate through. Something that certainly, if it wasn't for other YouTubers, I probably would be in a much darker place. And it involves a lot of reassessing what you think happens, and it can happen multiple ways. Like I said, for me, it was basically meeting a twin flame and a breakdown of my heart with a narcissist. I definitely didn't expect it to happen. I was an atheist for like 23 years. I didn't believe in a single thing. And once that truth sort of hits you, it basically, you can't really do anything else. You're in it now. Whether or not you, resist, how hard you resist, how often you resist, we're all still human, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. But it can happen, in multiple ways, like near-death experience, the loss of a loved one that you're specifically close to, again, meeting a twin flame, or in rare cases, not that I've ever heard of this happening too often, though it does seem to happen with some higher conscious individuals like Eckhart Tolle, is like lifelong depressions that suddenly just something snaps inside of you, like your soul's like, okay, that's enough. Now it's time for this now, in just one instant. I was gonna snap my fingers, but I don't know how to snap my fingers properly. So yeah, so it can happen in those kind of ways. as well. And so basically, you know, you kind of you're now awake, and that's kind of what the waking up means. It's that you're now aware that that you're not actually part of the world that you're really in, um, or that maybe you are to an even larger degree, that you actually chose to come here. And I read this a while ago, a year ago, so it isn't my original thought, but I like to think of it as like uh, a movie theater. You know, you've been living your entire life thinking that you're in the movie, and then that's what it is. You know, like that this is the experience, and this is it. That, you know, you're in the movie, and all the suffering and the shit that comes along with it, that's you, and you're stuck in that. But what you come to realize when you wake up is that you're actually watching the movie. You're in the theater eating the popcorn, watching the movie. And so you wake up, and there's now a dissonance, because you realize, you know, that you're stuck in a film, maybe even a bad film. It's probably a bad film. If you've been spiritually awakened, it's probably a bad film that you've been living, because the whole point is to bring a new consciousness, a new truth to yourself and to the others, and that usually involves some sort of suffering and hardship. It just kind of is. You know, when you accept it, it gets a lot better. Not even to say that I have, but it does. So you know, then you have to get back to that movie theater. You have to get back to that person in the movie theater. You have to get back to your higher self, and that's not something, you know, that's easy. It's not something that's meant to be easy. I think if it was easy, it wouldn't even be rewarding. And it's not like a spiritual awakening is a short process. It's a lifelong thing. It happens, and you know, you probably reach a point where, at least from what I've seen, where people become more ingrained with their higher self, where they're the true versions of themselves, and they go through life like that. But of course, it doesn't mean that, you know, you don't still learn lessons, or that bad things don't happen. Of course not. But it does give you an air of confidence, a deeper confidence, not something with the mind. It's not impotence at all. It's a real soulful confidence. So that being said, you know, it could take, you know, months, years for you to ever even reach a point where you gain that clarity. But of course, it's always ongoing. And for me, the reason why I personally believe any of this is happening is because the world is shifting. We've been in a 3D world, and it's now going into a 4D, 5D, you know, dimensional kind of world. And we're basically on the cusp. The cusp is something greater than what we've ever seen before, as we transition as a society, as a species, into something larger. And I think that most of you, whoever ends up watching this video, probably agree that the world seems like it's a very chaotic place. And to me, that is it's a metaphorical representation of the, you know, of the egoic mind, of a larger hive mind of resistance, resisting against the proper path, you know. And it's not even to be political, but the president of the United States is an idiot, and it's not even a stance on anything. Maybe idiot's a strong word for someone claiming to be spiritually awakened, but let's just say that anybody with a sort of degree of objectivity, at least from a spiritual sense, could probably tell that the man is not what you would expect in a leader, and certainly not what you would want in a person, you know, a quality to have as a character, you know. Never be a caricature, and that's what the president is. But it's a larger representation, which when you really start to look at it, it's kind of interesting, is because he represents, it's a metaphor for the resistance that the world is going through at this time. Just with any resurgence of racism or sexism and all the weird stuff that's happening around the world, it's like a complete resistance to what is changing, because it is inevitable. Just as, you know, as terrible as things might have happened in the past, you know, with Americans even going out west, and that came at a great expense to a specific culture, and yet it shapes the entire world. And so in the same way, this is a cusp of exploration. And so people like myself, and if you ever resonate with this video and you watch it, then you too probably are being asked and called by your higher self, your soul, to actually do something, to come here with a sort of mission to help and explain and guide people through whatever mechanism. You know, I'm not specifically attuned to just making videos. This is my first one, like I said, it's my first time. It probably sounds ridiculous. I don't even know what I look like or sound like. The video quality is probably trash as well, but I'm just going to keep going at it because you kind of have to. You kind of have to take that first step and hope that, you know, you end up getting somewhere with it, you know, and usually you're supported in it. The universe will support you. But that's a whole nother topic. Again, just my first video. Not, I know this is right off the cusp. I have no idea what I'm talking about as far as guidelines. I keep saying off the cusp. I've never said that before in my life, so you can definitely tell that, you know, a little bit nervous. But that is sort of, again, you know, basically what a spiritual awakening is, and that's sort of what's happening within the world. Is a lot of people now are waking up to this higher truth, to this realization that this isn't it, and you know, and you have to deal with that. It's a lot of damaged sort of goods that we might think ourselves as, but as we become more and more awake, we start to realize that all of the things that we've had that have held us down are actually just there for us to release, to become a better version of ourselves. Because there are going to be people in this world, no matter what, that are not going to be spiritually awakened. And being spiritually awakened doesn't mean, you know, you don't make mistakes, because I would even say that once you become spiritually awakened, you undergo that first process, especially that first year, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes, probably do things you didn't want to do or things you didn't want to, you know, you'd ever think you'd do, because you're cut off. You now realize, what have I been listening to? Have I ever really been listening to myself, my higher self, my intuition? Once you start learning all this information, it becomes extremely hard to sort of connect to make sure you know what you're doing. And I think that a lot of people in any regard, however age, whatever, however spiritually awakened you are, can struggle with that at times, you know, and we can't do it all alone. You know, a lot of people I watch on YouTube that have been awakened for years and years and help hundreds of thousands of people, even, you know, they'll still take the confidence to say to their audience that, you know, hey, like, I don't really know what I'm doing sometimes, but I asked for help, you know. So in that sense, we're not really alone. But that is what, basically, I just want this first video to be about, just a sort of introduction to me, my bandana, and the general sort of what an awakening is, what's going to happen. But again, yeah, I'm just going to make my videos sort of light, sort of something airy, talk about the sort of things that I've been through, the sort of things that I'm sure others have been through, and to help navigate and guide people out of the holes that we all dig ourselves in life. So yeah, that's gonna be my first video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. And if you hated it, or you make some suggestions, like I don't know what the lighting is like, then please leave a comment and tell me. If you liked it, then also leave a comment or like it. I don't know. I don't make YouTube videos, so every time I watch a video, they always say like and subscribe. So I don't know if I'm required by law to say that. I might be. I'll have to look up the contract of YouTube. I'm not sure how it works. But yeah, that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching, if you did. And if you didn't, then I just spent, 14, 15 minutes talking to myself, which was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. All right, see you.